Abhinay, you can interrupt me wherever you
Yes,
feel
we have
na
started.
ki
We are in
there
live,
is an
ma'am.
issue.
Sorry, ma'am.
Okay, please. You can interrupt me and you can stop me wherever you feel ki that something you want to say something. Because in full screen, I am only visible that my PPT, hai na, for front PPT.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, 1 second. Now is it fine? Is it fine, ma'am? Once the session started, I will add.
yeah.
So, good evening, members. On behalf of Madurai branch of SARC of ICI, I welcome all the members and our today's speaker, Kemisha Soni ma'am, chairperson of Ethical Standard Board of ICI, and also a Central Council member. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us, with our Madurai branch members, and we are pleased to have you for the session. Thanks a lot for accepting our invite, ma'am. And our today's session will be on New Code of Ethics 2020, which will be applicable from 1/7/2020. So Madam will be giving an overview of the New Code of Ethics today. So without wasting much time, we shall move to the session. Now I request Madam to kindly address the meeting. Yes, ma'am. Over to the speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. And I would also recognize the presence of Secretary, Madurai branch. And as per my knowledge, and I'm little knowledge that Madurai is the cultural capital of Tamil Nadu, and also famous for its temple. So not through physically, but at least I'm able to attend through virtual. So I will definitely have blessings of Meenakshi temple, and also and esteemed members of Madurai branch of our proud institute. I would also like recognize the presence of our members who are attending through this virtual meeting, this code of ethics. And dear viewers, creativity, knowledge, and ethics has always been important in our profession. This profession is becoming more challenging in the era of globalization, liberalization, modernization, and most important, digitalization. So, first, I will give total overview on revised code of ethics 2019, which will applicable on 1st July 2020. And first, I will cover part one, that is maximum theoretical part up to 1 to 30 slide approx, and after that I will cover that is our domestic provision related part 2, and that is called volume 2. I will brief you in my slides later on, and about volume 3. And after that we'll take queries of members which are related to day practice, and otherwise if time will permit, then we will take query. Otherwise members can send queries and compile by our chairperson Madurai branch, and you may send to ESB Ethical Standard Board, esb@ici.in. So, first, I would like to update about our initiatives of Ethical Standard Board. We have one good publications which are very relevant to our practicing chartered accountant. That is FAQs on ethical issues, and we have updated up to 2018. So, member can get that soft form of that booklet from our ESB portal. And second, revised code of ethics, which is related to part A in detail, I will cover in my next slide. That is also available on our website. This slide is related to both publications of our ESB, and latest also announcement we have in the form of announcement at our ESB portal. So now next slide is related to 2009 edition and revised edition. Frankly speaking, dear members, maximum members, I have taken seminars in so many branches, they are not even aware about the our old code of ethics, that is 2009. We used to read at the time of when we were doing chartered accountancy course in final student. That time we were aware about that code of ethics, and nowadays really we are not updated even our this version, existing version. So in my presentation I will cover both sides, 2009 vice versa with 2019. So major changes, Code of Ethics 2009 has two parts, as you all are aware, A and B, and will valid up to 30th June. It means in present situation, you will have to follow 2009 Code of Ethics, and for next from 1st July will have to follow the revised Code of Ethics 2019. Generally, I will give overview that Part A based on ISBA Code of Ethics as suitably incorporated. Part B based on our domestic provision governing members. Domestic provision, it means about our Companies Act 13, CA Act, CA regulation, our council guideline, all are covered in Part B. Then Code of Ethics 2019 bifurcated as a volume. We have segregated all type of depend on that part A, which is related to previously related to International Code of Ethics, ISBA. Now that is called volume 1, and about domestic provision we have published separate volume 2, which are related to our Domestic Provision Act regulations. And volume 3, what we have done in that part, we have segregated all type of disciplinary cases under various clauses of related to Part B. We have compiled all type of cases in volume 3, and all three volumes will effective from 1st July 20. Now about the adoption and implementation. This is 12th edition, and first time Code of Ethics segregated in different volume, as I have mentioned. And this is the time for awareness programs. We have already designed so many programs, and we have also uploaded one PPT in the form of e-PPT with commentary at Digital Learning Hub also. And we are also publishing e-code to be available soon, and various awareness programs, as I have mentioned. With this, I also recognize our chair, your Madurai branch chairperson, that you had already planned this program. Now about volume 1. Major 5 most important substantive changes are, which are related, that are not at all in 2009 code. First, about NOCLAR, that is non-compliance of law and regulation. Second one is taxation services to audit client. If you are performing certain type of functions for your audit client, so restriction has already come through 2019 Code of Ethics. Third is related to management responsibility to the audit client. In India, we can say that management consultancy functions and services. Then about the fees, changes in restriction of particular one client fees, that from our one client should not exceed 15%. Previously, it was as a self-regulatory measure, 40% old provisions. And about the unintentional breach of independence, in case of any violation of our independence or our standards, so people may come back again and rectify that breach, and they can continue with that assignment. So these 5 changes that are not under our 2009 code, and now it is on revised Code of Ethics, already changed. So about the structural changes, I would also like to mention about the some structural changes, that independence for assurance engagement. Now audit engagement, review engagement, and other assurance engagement differentiated. So you will have to understand as a practicing chartered accountant ki which type of assignment you are handling, whether that is audit, whether that is review engagement or assurance engagement. Second major change is that is introductions of international independence standard. Previously, only one paragraph was there in that particular 2009 code, but now separate part is there, 4A and 4B, for all type of audit functions. Audit and review, separate standard, and for assurance engagement there are separate standard. And use of should, it means ki you should everywhere change that word should to shall. It means compulsion, mandatory, you will have to follow that particular segment, and should that is identical ki generally you should follow that particular type of change. But shall, that is binding nature, you will have to follow, you shall have to follow that particular segment. Under, if you are not follow that particular section, so you will be under disciplinary and professional misconduct. And also changes in pattern of that all sections, and increased or clarity regarding responsibility for compliance for firm, network firm, individuals and other segment. One also small thing I would like to share, that professional accountant here in 2009 also we have mentioned for chartered accountant word professional accountant instead of chartered accountant, because globally that word is using that professional accountant. So we have also carry on same word in our Indian code of ethics also. And who will be the professional accountant? So already defined, an individual who is a member of ICAI will be the professional accountant or chartered accountant. And about one more change I would like to update, that key professional accountant in business in ISBA code of ethics, international code of ethics, term is used for member in service. So we have modified as per our CA Act that word members in service, and in international code of ethics they use this word professional accountant in business. So this is overview about our 2009 old version, that is generally accepted general application of the code. It means applicable to all our members whether they are in practice or whether they are in service. And second is related to service only, exclusive for practicing chartered accountant. Third chapter related to service. This is the present provision related to council guideline and chartered accountant our act and accounting standard and standard on auditing. So these all are the part of one our code of ethics 2009. Now, new structure of code of ethics, part 1, that is related to fundamental principle and conceptual framework. Later on we will discuss about that, which will applicable to all professional accountant, all chartered accountant. Second part is related to business. It means practicing chartered account related to member in service, and third part is related to practicing chartered accountant. And 4 is very important, as I have mentioned, that international independence standard 4A, independence for audit and review, and 4B, independence for other assurance engagement. So you can see that sections here I have mentioned that ki up to 400 to 899 is related to independence. So independence for any assignment, independence is most important things for our chartered accountant fraternity. So about the fundamental principle, threats and safeguard, we will discuss in later on slides. Now, what will happen if you will not comply and follow this revised code of ethics? So this is issued as a council guideline, and violation of council guideline will fall under second schedule part 2 clause 1. A member of the institute, whether in practice or not, shall be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if he contravene any of the provision of this act or regulation. So if we are not following this ethical code of ethics, so we will be under this disciplinary mechanism and guilty of professional misconduct. So as I have previously mentioned, that new pattern of structuring of each sections, this type of structuring of sections was not there in 2009, but in new code, every sections, every concept we have defined. First, introduction of that particular segment, sections. After that, requirement part, we have mentioned what will be the requirement from the part of chartered accountant, and then application we have given, and we have mentioned as R then denote with requirement denote R letter, and application denote with A. So all type of that particular requirements and application, how you can apply. So we have given example also, and in case of violation of that particular section, so there is also how you can meet out and how you can eliminate that particular type of violation of clause. So first we will review about our 5 fundamental principle. I'm sure because 80% of our chartered accountants are not aware about our revised code of ethics. So just we will review about that, because from 1st July we'll have to keep in the form of documentation this all type of document which I will mention in our later on slides. So about integrity, so our chartered accountant should be straightforward and honest. About objectivity, chartered accountant should not allow to biased conflict of interest. Main segment is conflict of interest or undue influence of others. Professional competence and due care, it means professional accountant should be updated with latest amendment changes, with aware about the technical standards, accounting standard, auditing standard. At least this is minimum expectation from society. And also this is the main one of our fundamental principle. If you are handling certain type of assignment, for example, if you are handling some IT audit, cyber audit, so you should know about the cyber laws and IT rules regulations. And if you are handling forensic audit, so you should know about the forensic audit, how you can conduct that audit. And you will have to keep that type of certificate experience in the form of documentation, because you are experience of that type of assignment, and you have knowledge of and you have expertise of this type of assignment. So that's why you are handling that type of assignment. So in case of professional competence and due care, you will have to keep this type of expertise and other documents also. And confidentiality always important. You cannot share any information of your client, not only at the time of assignment but after completion of assignment. Certain exemptions are there in case of law requirement or in case of incoming and outgoing auditor requirement. We have mentioned exception also for confidentiality clause. And last but not the least, very important, professional behavior. You are 24/7 chartered accountant, not only 10 to 7 or 8. So your behavior should like a chartered accountant. That is not anytime your behavior or action may be the reason of cause of our professional disrepute. So be aware about that. You should follow all time our chartered accountancy professions related our behavior like that. So next is about the threads. There are 5 types of thread. For handling any type of assignment, you will have to work out on threads. If there is a, for example, self-interest thread, your maybe your relative, your partner, or maybe financial interest in your audit client. So you will have to check that your relative, your partner, or your employee are not related to your audit client, not in the manner of financials and other benefits from that particular client where for whom you are doing audits. Second is self-review and advocacy threat. Self-review threats arise when a previous judgment needs to be re-evaluated. For example, you are doing some accounting function also of your audit client, and now you are doing audit. So that is the called self-review threats. That in our language we can say that maker cannot be a checker. And the third one is advocacy. If you are referring and you are somewhere you are representing your client to various authority as an advocate, and you are promoting, you are representing your client at any platform, any judiciary or department or appellate authority. So in that case, their advocacy threats will be there. Familiarity threats means your relative or from family, nobody is related to that audit client. And last one is intimidation threat. It means ki your dependency, because of intimidation threats occur because of deterrence. So at the time of assignment, you will have to work out for each and every assignment in the form of that conceptual framework approach. As we have discussed about the threat evaluations, first we will check for every assignment that is there any threats to our fundamental principle. In case, if is there any threats amongst the 5 threats, so in that case you will apply safeguard. For example, if your partner is partner has some loan in particular entity, so in that case you cannot handle that assignment as a auditor. So what you can do, that financial interest, if your partner repay that financials, so in that case you can accept that assignment. So in each and every situations, you will have to work out about the conceptual framework approach, and this type of document in your file, there should be this type of document in your file for each and every assignment. Evaluation, first we will analyze our fundamental principle, and after that if we check that is there any threats of this fundamental principle, is there is no threats, so you can accept assignment, otherwise you will have to decline that particular type of assignment. Then first time new concept introduced about the NOCLAR. In simple language, say NOCLAR. If you are handling audit assignment, so you are aware about all standard on auditing. For example, related standard is SA 250. At the time of financial statement audit, so many other regulations also there. For example, in case of bank audit, so we'll have to concern about the Banking Regulation Act 1949, RBI Act and regulations, maybe other provident fund, ESIC in your client. At the time of balance sheet of audit, if any other act and regulation apart from our CA Act regulations, Companies Act, our auditing standard, except that other act and regulations will have to check because of violation of that particular regulation. For example, if you are disclosing anything that they have not followed as per our Banking Regulation Act, for example, as per RBI for NBFC audit, 10% reserve is compulsory before declaration of dividend. If you have not qualified report, if your client has not transferred in reserve and you did not qualify that report, in that case, this is the violation and negligence of professional assignment duties. So this is related to financial and fiscal laws applicable to your clients, but something different, that is NOCLAR requirement. So we will through slides we'll see what is the NOCLAR that is mentioned in 260 and 360, that any act of omission or commission committed by a client or employer contrary to prevailing laws and regulations. So these laws and regulation are not related to only fiscal laws, that is also non-fiscal laws also will included. So you will have to report that particular regulatory authority that your client has not followed this particular requirement. So this is really very different responsibility on chartered accountant, but society and stakeholder also expect कि our responsibility, prima facie ethically responsibility, not to turn a blind eye to the matter related to NOCLAR. In front of you, some violations are there. During audit, you find out some penalty violations and something, so you will have to report because of in nature of public interest. So first, we are like phase wise, we have started from 1st July is only limited extended for listed companies and applicable to both, not only listed company, not only practicing chartered accountant, but employee of listed company also will applicable these NOCLAR provisions. So scope of laws and regulations, that is scope only at the time of, we'll have to caution at the time of audit proceedings, and our responsibility is up to that extent that during audit proceedings, if we observed some irregularities which are related to that. For example, for pharma company, Schedule H registration is necessary. So if uh, client has no this type of or not renewal of registration, so going concern itself will be in danger in that case. So about all type of violations which are applicable to your client, you will have to look in that particular segment also, and only up to the your audit responsibility, not beyond that. So here I have given certain examples related to NOCLAR, member in practice section 360, and second section will be applicable to 260 for member in service. And I have given fraud, corruption, bribery, this type of example in that: money laundering, terrorist financing, security market violations, banking and other financial product, data protection, sometimes cyber security law and other provisions also applicable to your client. So you will have to check for environmental protection also. In case of pollution board, certain guidelines and certain type of formalities, if your client has not done, so you will have to report to regulatory authority also. So in case if NOCLAR obligation will not be there, if that is not material, not relevant, in that case you may left that particular portion that is not material, that's why you have not report. But documentation is necessary. And also for practicing chartered accountant, reporting to authority, I can say that like this work is like a whistleblower. So we'll have to report that regulatory authority also. For example, in case of fraudulent financial reporting, we'll have to report to SEBI. Related to banks, we will have to report to RBI. So according that particular regulator, we'll have to direct report to that regulatory authority also. Now come to the independent standard. Independent standard covered for audit and review engagement 400 to 899 sections, and for other than audit and review engagement, that covered 900 to 999. So these are very important and really very vast coverage of these independent standards, and we will have to follow that all independent standards. And in case of as I have previously mentioned, then breach of the code of new provisions. So previously it was not there, remedies was not there, but in these standards, in this revised code of ethics, we have already given remedy to our members that they can rectify that violation of any regulations. For example, for auditor appointment, as per Companies Act 13 and Rule 10, what section 141 says that there is disqualification of auditor. So any disqualification is by ignorance any chartered accountant missed and accept that particular company's audit, so they can rectify. If they have taken, they had already loan in that particular company, so they can repayment of loan and then rectify this type of mistake or unintentional violation. Now, new concept is key audit partner, not mentioned in ICAI Code of Ethics, because as a general impression is that only who is signing, he is responsible, he or she is responsible for any audit. But this is new concept, key audit partner. Key audit partner includes the engagement partner, mainly who is handling and signing and that thing. One partner, if he is handling audit planning procedure and he is doing some audit work at client place, so individual responsible for the engagement quality control review, EQCR, is also will be the part of key audit partner. And other partner who are involved in that particular assignment, so that also under key audit partner. So dear members, at the time of documentation and at the time of audit planning, you can mention name of that partners and name of that particular person who is handling that type of nature of work and assignment. So all will be the key audit partner. Then firm rotation, 2009 edition of Code of Ethics contains requirements relating to partner rotation. no firm rotations requirement was exist, and but Companies Act 13 has stipulated firm rotation. You all are aware about that. Now Companies Act 13, after applicable 13, there is a firm rotation already there, and in certain other assignments there are partner rotation also the requirement. So about the cooling off, as I have mentioned, now key audit partner already defined. So in that case, our 2009, as per 2009 code, 7 for any assignment, 7 year if you are there for that particular type of assignment, so you will have to take a cooling off for 2 years. But in 2019, 7 year is okay. Continue, they can handle that type of assignment. But for EP, for engagement partner, who is mainly handling that assignment, the 5 year cooling off necessary. And in case of EQCR, what I have mentioned, individual responsible for the engagement quality control review. It means for following standard on auditing and for audit procedure, planning, sampling, internal control. So who are looking that audit matter? So 3 year cooling off for EQCR, and other key audit partner 2 year cooling off, all other KAPs. So this is also new change. Then partner rotation, somewhere Companies Act also referred about the partner rotation, and some other regulation. For example, RBI in certain NBFC, there is requirement about the partner rotation. In case of any domestic act has some provisions related to partner rotation, so we'll have to follow that act, or first that act also, because of after that, if silent for that partner rotation, in that case our code of ethics will applicable. Restriction on activity during cooling off, as I have mentioned, that 5 years, 3 years, and 2 years. In that cooling off period, that main audit engagement partner cannot handle, cannot discuss, cannot provide any type of professional services to the audit client in that cooling off period. Altogether, he will have to isolate it from that particular type of assignment, which I have mentioned. Not only that particular, for that particular company, but a whole group of company, even considering holding, subsidiary, and all type of this type of that particular same management, they cannot consult or other services they cannot provide at the time of cooling off. Now, management responsibility. For example, if we are assisting our client related to their management consultancy role in management, somewhere so many things for small and medium practice, here we used to involve in their family matters also. We can say that because of small and medium practitioner, we have very small client also. So we generally involve in their day-to-day functions also, in accountancy, in other things also. So we should refrain ourselves from that type of activities, and we can perform with management responsibility functions what we have allowed, that is called administrative services, where we are not taking any decision, we are not any consultancy, we are not giving any consultancy which are very important and material for that audit client. For example, just they are sending data and we are feeding certain type of forms, we are preparing certain types of statutory forms and dates compilation and that type of thing. There is no any measure and material impact on our management and our account auditing functions. So that type of administrative services are permissible, other than that are not permissible for our audit client. Most important segment which will affect to our practicing chartered accountant is non-assurance services. Non-assurance services, generally, if we are providing apart from audit, so many other services if we are providing. For example, uh, for for example, if we are providing related to income tax services, GST services, so we should have to check that things. The materiality concept also will have to check, because I have also bifurcated certain type of services with audit client, what you can perform and what you cannot perform. So new prohibition also related to specific prohibitions related to recruitment services in revised 2019 Code of Ethics. If you are assisting, if you are consulting them about the HR services for their account and finance department, for their internal audit department, or related to IT accounting services and other these type of services, and you are taking interview of that accountant positions or internal auditor positions, so you should not involve in these type of functions. So from this new code of ethics, there is a specifically prohibition related to recruitment or HR services. Now related to taxation services, because so many chartered accountants are providing taxation services to the audit clients. So up to 2009 Code of Ethics, there are no specific requirements related to these type of services, and easily everybody can parallel perform these type of services also. They are also doing this type of taxation related services, but after 2019 certain type of threats are there, what we have discussed, so many threats, 5 type of threats. So in next slide we will discuss about that about first, service related to tax return preparation. If we are only preparing tax return, client used to send data to us and we are only filing through mail. They are sending some data and we are filing the return of them, so there is no threats, usually no threats. In case of tax calculations for the purpose of preparing accounting entries, definitely self review threats will create, because you are performing certain functions which are related to finance, and end result is will impact on your financial statement. For example, certain type of tax calculations for the purpose of preparing accounting entry, you are consulting them for expenses related consultancy and other type of any accounting consultancy, and then after this tax calculation you are working on only you are calculating advanced tax, so there is no threats. But materiality concept is also will play a major role in that type of services. If that is not material in your financial statement, so you can do audit also, and with these type of services also. Third one is most important, that is tax planning or tax advisory services might create self review and advocacy threats. Appropriate safeguard to be adopted, for example using professional who are not audit team members to perform the service, having an appropriate reviewer not involving in providing the service, review the audit work, etc. So you can delegate your these type of services to other person who are not involved in your audit. So these type of elimination of threat, in that case you can continue with audit that particular client. Next is tax services involving valuation. Sometimes you are also as a valuer, working as a valuer, you are providing valuation services. In that case, if materiality is there and materiality impact of direct on financial statement, so you should not in that case that threats will be there, and you cannot perform audit of that client. But in case of valuation, that is not directly and material impact on financial statement, so you can continue with audit and these valuation services also. Next, most important is assistance in the resolution of tax disputes. If you are representing your client at income tax department, GS department, and various other authorities, judicials and tribunal, in that case, two threats are there. First, review threats, and second is advocacy threats. In that case, because of, again, materiality concept will involve that material impact on your financial statement, so firm will not able to give opinion to that particular audit client. Because of that, you are representing your client to income tax, for example income tax department, and you are referring your client and you are representing them in case of, for example, you don't make addition in my client or deletion and something that. So you are in biased manner, you are representing your client at outer world. In case of audit, you will have to independent, and conflict of interest should not be there. So in that case, again, you can eliminate this threat through delegate this work to other partner, or if you are expert in this tax and other act, so you can handle this, and audit may be handled by your other partner or other firm. So next is safeguard. As I have already mentioned at the time of that slide, that is conceptual framework. So for any assignment, you will have to check that clearly there is any threats in that assignments. So at up to the acceptable level, you will have to eliminate that threat, and in only that case you can accept that particular type of assignment. Then close and immediate family. This is also new concept. Previously, our 2009 Code of Ethics use word relative. That was very vast coverage of chartered accountants, family, partners, their relatives. Now that is restricted only up to the close family and immediate family. Close family, a parent, child or sibling who is not an immediate family member. Immediate family, a spouse or equivalent or dependent. Okay. So in other case, if our domestic act, any act, for example, Companies Act, their definitions under 2 subsection 77 as per Companies Act 13, in any other act, GST, Income Tax Act, where relative definition is different from our Code of Ethics. So first we'll have to look in that our domestic act and regulation, and in absence of that act and regulation, relative definition will be the close family or immediate family. Now, this is also public interest entity concept called PI. This is a new introduction in Revised Code of Ethics 19. Its definition of PI is a listed entity, an entity defined by regulation or legislation as a public interest entity, and also some other entity we have incorporated as per our domestic provision. Dear viewers, I would say that global ISBA Code of Ethics, as you are aware about that, we are not adopting as it is that international code. We are conversing that as per our local domestic law, regulation, and circumstances. In that case, that public interest entity, we have also added insurance company and banking segment also. And in public interest entity audit case, we cannot perform other than audit functions. Here, very stringent provision for public interest entity. So we can skip this slide because this is same as 2009 and 19. In any form of gift and hospitality, nowadays, specifically in case of bank audit and other cases, if they offer something about in the form of gift and hospitality, so this is total prohibited for any chartered accountant. Most important segment is documentation. Up to this Code of Ethics 2009, there is no requirement of documentation, sort of documentation. There's a Code of Ethics related to our inner or like our internal requirements. Ki, haan, we are following ethics and we are very ethical. But now, after Revised Code of Ethics, we'll have to prove that we have followed all ethical standard in the form of documentation. We'll have our own evidence in the form of documentation. So here I would like certain updates, certain about certain documentations regarding KYC and other things. Just 1 minute. Under ethical standards, first document required about NOCLAR. What I have mentioned that in case of non-compliance with law and regulations, so we'll have to one document related to NOCLAR, that we have performed certain procedure, we have confirmed from management that about the other law and regulations, and you can take, dear members, you can take management representation letter. Even you can add in your engagement letter also these things, कि they have followed all law and regulations which are applicable to your entities. Second, for example, for fees also you will have to keep certain documents, that more than, if you have so many clients and from one client exceeding 15% you are taking fees, so in that case you will have to mention that ki, I can give one example, that for example, if one chartered accountant has total receipts is 10 lakh rupees, and from ABC client he is receiving 1,50,000, so that is 15%. So now, as per new requirement, consecutive last 2 years exceeding 15% fees of particular ABC client, in third year you will have to disclose that things, that in the form of disclosures in your audit report, that your fees is exceeding 15%, including audit and other services are also. And after that, fourth year, you will not qualify for the audit that for ABC client. So what you can do, that you can increase your fees, like is total fees is 10 lakh, next year your, maybe you increase your client or in the fee, total fees, now fees is suppose 15 lakh, and you are taking 1,50,000, so now percentage is 10%. So there is no violation of that fees requirement. In that form you will have to keep that type of document of calculations, कि now our total fees is now 15 lakh, and now we are taking 1,50,000, that is not exceeding 15%. So in that form we'll have to keep that document. Most important is KYC also. You all are aware about that, कि KYC is applicable from 1st January 2017. So if you have a client, individual proprietor companies, or in case of LLP or partnership firm, so I am mentioning certain type of document for the KYC requirement that is mandatory since 1st January 17. So if you are starting any audit or any assignment, review assignment, assurance assignment, so you will have to keep this type of document. I'm giving the example, if your client is individual and or proprietor, so name of individual, PAN or Aadhaar number of the individual, business description, and copy of last audited balance sheet is also the part of KYC. And also engagement information, type of engagement you are handling. And in case of your client is a corporate entity, so first segment is general information, name and address of entity, business description. Third one is name of the parent company in case of subsidiary, and copy of last audited balance sheet. And even you can take a group same management group of companies detail also. And then B segment is engagement information, type of engagement you will handle. And third is, in case of corporate entity, LLP, etc., regulatory information, like for example, company PAN number, company identification number, director's name and address, director's identification number. These all type of requirement under our KYC. So these certain documents I have here given example, and also conceptual framework, that for any assignment you have accepted after evaluating of threat and using the safeguard, and then you accepted that assignment, that type of conceptual framework document also will be the part of your ethical standard documentation. And most important documentation is about the our standard on auditing and SQC1. For handling any type of assignment, you will have to keep documentation as per our ICI. So already about the fees, already I have mentioned that 15% of total fees from particular one client. So you will have to disclose with TC GW, that is called those charged with governance, and this ceiling is not applicable if firm receipt is not exceeding 5 lakh, and in case of government audit, bank audit, and other government segment, public sector undertaking audit not included, that are exceptional for that 15% in calculation of 15% fees. Previous 2009, that percentage was 40%, and that was mentioned in our part B as a self-regulatory measure. Now from 40% to 15%. This is revised provision. Then about the criteria of indebtedness, as you all are aware about that, 10,000 rupees was that time criteria, but now as per International Code of Ethics, that is the concept of materiality. There is no, they have not mentioned any monitoring limit. They have only matter that concept of materiality, and that is material. So you should not qualify to do that particular type of audit. But here we have mentioned limit, that previously 10,000, now we have already exceeded that limit, 1 lakh rupees. That will applicable from 1st July. Okay, and presently this limit is 10,000 rupees. Also, so many changes related to professional appointment. Appointment means incoming auditor, outgoing auditor, incoming for auditors, for new clients, KYC requirements, and these type of requirements also introduced. And for outgoing auditor, now requirement of communication for outgoing auditor is also, not only incoming auditor. If you are sending NOC letter to outgoing auditor, the outgoing auditor will have to communicate to incoming auditor about the any law and regulation and any suspected item. If he feel to convey to new auditor, so that also will require new requirement as per our new code of ethics. And about contingent fees, as per revised code of ethics, also not allowed. And some situations in case of permission is there, so we have already mentioned in our regulation 192. For example, receiver, liquidator, on the basis of realization of asset, in certain state there is a cooperative act also required, this type of. So we have already mentioned in our old code of ethics 2009 also, certain situation where contingent fees can be taken, but in other cases totally prohibition on contingent fees. Now applicability of provision for member in service. If any person, any employee who is in with practicing chartered accountant, he is employee in practicing chartered accountant, so provision of member in service provision that related to part 2 will be applicable to that member also, who is employee of practicing chartered accountant, employee in practicing chartered accountant firm. And also for chartered accountant who are in service, so in that case, at the time of preparation and presentation of certain information and related to that some violation or disassorting from misleading information, so in that case also he will have to make caution about that, and he should himself isolated from that type of particular assignment. So that new other I have already covered that are related to volume 1. Hopefully I am audible and my presentation is visible. Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Your thing is visible. Everything is perfect, ma'am. You can go ahead.
Perfect, na? So I carry on, na? Yeah. Now it is very important, volume 2, which is related to our domestic act and provisions. So in day-to-day practice, these provisions are very important. First, most important changes, substantive changes, which are related to 2019, and because of change in our Chartered Accountant Act regulations, because so many council guidelines. As you all know that 2009 we have updated our code of ethics, and this is 2020. So last 10 11 years we have not make any updation in our code of ethics. So wherever our domestic act regulation, accounting standard, auditing standard, companies act, any changes which are relevant to our ethical standard and code of ethics. We have incorporated that changes. Second is council decision and clarification given by ethical standard board, and already previously we have received so many queries related to that ethical issues. So we have also incorporated in revised code of ethics, and changes in advertisement guidelines and council general guidelines we have already incorporated, and related to commentary also. Just a minute, I'll have to. Yeah. So these are some changes, most substantive changes, and because of change in our volume 1, previous part A, so changes that revise volume 1 also impact on volume 2. So because of change in volume 1, we have also change in volume 2. So these are some important changes are there. Some structural changes already we have done from that all paragraph numbered, titles of all provisions, new appendix, all disciplinary cases removed. You have already seen that so many clauses, schedule 1 and 2, and with clauses we have mentioned so old cases also, tribunal, high court, and other our disciplinary committee cases we have mentioned. Now we have separate publication for that, for case laws, case digest in the form of volume 3, and alignment with code of ethics 2019, what I have mentioned related to part A. So how important pronouncement of ICI is important for our practicing chartered accountant? Because the definition of professional and other misconduct under CA Act regulation, I would like to mention here. While performing our duty as a professional, the knowledge of laws and other rules and regulations affecting a particular assignment is fundamental. However, apart from the domain knowledge, one also need to constantly bear in mind the provisions of CA Act, CA regulation, technical pronouncements of ICI, and also a few notification of ICI. So please connect always with ICI related to some technical amendments, changes, accounting standard, and everything. And violation of these pronouncements doubtless is a professional misconduct. So this all about that we will have to follow all type of publication and technical material which are applicable to our audits are mandatory, will have to follow that. Institute also publish statement like, for example, CARO, that is also mandatory, and deviation, if from that statement any deviation in your assignment you think as per your opinion, also for guidance note also institute has published so many guidance note. But in case of particular circumstances, if member feel that because you are not able to follow that guidance note matter or statement, to accept that circumstances, you will have to disclose also that thing as per institute guidance note, these are the provisions, and because of these circumstances you are deviating from that particular provisions. About the accounting standard, auditing standard, dear chairperson, I think you are also facing this type of problem in case of income tax and GST. So many registration already, but in case of auditing standard or accounting standard and code of ethics seminar, very less presence of CP seminars. So from CPE, this is now mandatory because of awareness. So accounting standard and auditing standard, now standard on auditing, are also mandatory, and you will have to, in the form of documentations also, you will have to keep. So I have mentioned certain reporting standard. If you are doing any audit and you are giving opinion, so that should be as per SS 700, as it is language and format should be as per SS 700. So here I'm mentioning that SS, I'm referring SS 700, 705 and 706, which are related to our reporting aspects. Second one is e-booklet on sample checklists of SA, because for any audit assignment, you will have to understand about the nature of assignment. If you are attesting, you are attesting and signature, if you are doing any signature for any document, you will have to check the nature of assignment, and according that you will have to follow that standard. So for any audit assignment, SA 200 to up to 700, you will have to follow. So we have published one booklet in the form of checklist, so you can keep that checklist in your file. Then for certification, assurance, audit and other attest functions, we have also issued guidance note on reports or certificates for special purpose, revised 2016. And according that, if you are issuing any certificate and you are giving any opinion, and for any attestation function, even in case of projections for banks, compilation of data, so we have our own standards. For example, SAE 3400 you will have to follow. In cases of compilation of engagement, if your client need some last 3-year income tax data and compilation of data, and you are signing on that particular page or particular document you are signing, so we'll have to follow these type of standards. We have here, I have mentioned these standards, and if you required, so I will send all type of this standard in soft copy in PDF form to chairperson, so chairperson may circulate further. Next, overview on our present code of ethics. Part B is about the schedules. First schedule, second schedule, that is overview applicable on practicing chartered accountant and applicable to other member in service and member in general. So I'm not going in detail of this first and second schedule, which are already we are updated about that. I'm going directly so many changes in part B. That is called volume 2. So I'm taking that slides related to administrative services. Already revised code of ethics in volume 1, section 602 about that. Management responsibility services, we have also management consultancy and other services as per our section 2, subsection 2, clause 4. So many management consultancy services are allowable to our chartered accountant, to the audit client. With audit, they can do this type of consultancy services also, that is allowable. Not particular, I'm not talking about particular client. I'm talking as a whole, your about your firm, that you can perform so many other consultancy services. And we have also one added because of that part 1, volume 1, administrative services also can be undertaken by chartered accountant. I would also suggest with this, just missing that point, that you can also form your corporate form of practice with your this audit attesting firm. You can keep separate entity, and you can create your corporate form of practice or LLP. In the that is allowable from our institute side. As I have mentioned, clause 2 to 4 have mentioned so many consultancy services. Under that corporate form of practice, you can start. In consultancy, you can create separate entity for consultancy, management and other services, that is except different from your audit function. And in that particular corporate form of practice, you can be an executive director also. So there now, next is insurance financial advisory services up to 2009 provisions. Only change is that not including insurance agencies, other provisions are same. All type of consultancy you can provide, but as an agent you cannot work. You cannot you cannot favor any corporate company, insurance company. So in except insurance agency, all type of insurance advisory services you can provide. For valuations changes 2009, this definition is the valuation of shares and business and advising regarding amalgamation, merger and acquisitions. After Companies Act 13, new changes is there, that acting as a registered valuer we have already added in revised code of ethics. Next is incorporation in commentary, section 7. The member are not permitted to use initial CPA and etc. That is related to in your visiting card, what degree you can and qualification you can mention. From university, you can mention that degree, and from our institute, you can mention that degree. Other accounting profession, for example, CPA, you cannot mention on your visiting card. In short, mentioning qualification of accounting institute, which ICI have MOUs and MRAs with that particular country accounting professional. So in that case, you can mention after the permission of the institute. And on visiting card, already prohibitions, certain type of like if your designation, some responsibility you are carrying in political party, in any club, in any social organization, not permitted to mention this position, as they would be the violation of section 7 of the act. And now permissible insurance professional and registered valuer, you can mention these two things. And for elected representative, last highest position, he or she can mention, but in individual card, not in firm card. And provisions related to retirement of partner, which are related 2009, so many you are seeing so many details, but now this all detail removed, and because this is related to member sections of our ICI, and after SSP deleted from here and already incorporated in member sections. So next is related to schedule about referral fees amongst members. Amongst member, we can share that fees, but non-member we cannot share. I can say that about the multidisciplinary firms, we have already we have passed these resolutions. And ICI also working on some modality also for networking and MDP, but other regulators still not allowed and pass these requirements. So this is not possible in present situations. No equivalent to director simpliciter in partnership firm after LLP, introduction of LLP. So in case of LLP, there is no concept of simpliciter like a simpliciter director. Their partner and designated partner is not allowed like a simpliciter director. Guidance on tender, I think this guidelines is related to 2016. All member may be aware about this guideline ki only specifically and act and regulations, if there are specifically services reserved for chartered accountant, in that case cannot respond to the tender, and minimum fees should be there in case of responding. And but other services which are not specifically for chartered accountant, but like for example management related services, certain software related and other services, so our member are also free to respond to that type of tenders, because we don't want to restrict our members that services which are available to other professionals also, and other member also can respond for that particular type of assignment. So we are not, our intention is not restricting for that type of services. We are open to all that type of work, so member can respond in that type of work. CPA on visiting card, not allowed as per that, only where our MRA and MOU of ICI that is permitted. Sponsoring activity, so many, I think in 2009, where existing provisions are silent, so we have now given clarity for that particular segment. About revised code of ethics, member or firm not permitted to sponsor any event, however may sponsor an event conducted by POUs of ICI, provided it has a prior approval of our CP directorate. And even members sponsoring activity relating to CSR may mention their only individual name prefix CA. However, the mention of firm name or CA logo is not permitted. For advertisement, or this is also new provision related to teaching and coaching activity. Regarding advertisement, hoarding, boarding, banner are not allowed now, and 25 hours restrictions in a week, 25 hours they can take lecture and classes. And also educational video may be uploaded by member, however no reference should be made the CA firm where he may be the partner or proprietor. If he is any firm partner or proprietor, so they cannot mention that name of firm. Then movie and TV credit, code of ethics, old is silent, but in new, this is permissible, but not mentioned differently from other person. Sharing firm detail in an interview, only you can mention name of firm, and which are related to that particular specific question, you can answer in that case. And other changes, authorship of books, already firm name not permitted while authoring a book. Articles and presentation also included in commentary. Professional attainments prohibited. However, use of prefix of CA or name of firm permitted. So this is new change. And about the advertisement of silver, etc., celebration, golden jubilee celebration, diamond jubilee celebration. So old code was silent about that, but new code, it is permissible, but subject to only mention that our guidelines CA form may be published in newspaper. And size and illumination of signboard, existing provision about the signboard is office that a member can put up. It is a matter in which the member should exercise their own discretion and good taste. Use of glow sign on neon lights on large size boards as is used by traders or shopkeepers would not be proper. And also while keeping in mind the appropriate visibility and illumination of the signboard. This is added in our revised code. And about the internet added to TV films under commentary, we have added because of change in social media and use of digitalization and technology. So certain changes are related to that. Internet added TV films under commentary, but at the time of when we have, as per our advertisement guideline, firm name may also be mentioned that. However, any exaggerated claim or any kind of comparison is not permissible, that my firm is better than your firm. This type of statement and this type of words cannot mention in advertisement. Then network and logo. Not permitted, on firm logo not permitted, specifically designed firm logo not permitted, CA logo guideline already permitted and can be used, but in case of network, only registered ICI registered network permissible. And you can mention if your firm is a part of that particular network, so in your website only you can mention that that you are the part of ABC and affiliates. About the advertisement, as I have mentioned that key which is not registered, our member cannot be the part of that network. For example, I am giving here example of BNI, so strictly prohibited to be the part of that network. And I would like to update about one initiative of ICI that we are also working on our own search engine. And for our domestic firm and for our chartered accountant, we will provide platform of search engine and this type of network. Institute will provide. And this mode of communication also changes some related to that previously our code was silent in that any segment. So we have already added, because of after the technology, so registered acknowledgement due is already covered. And against a written acknowledgement, you should have that written acknowledgement from your outgoing auditor, and acknowledgement of the communication for retirement auditor via email addresses registered with the ICI or the last known official email address. Because COVID-19 and this situation, we are also allowing the member can send through mail on email, this email ID, and take NOC from outgoing auditor. And also modality of UDIN, through UDIN also we are working on it, that very soon we will launch that requirement, NOC requirement through UDIN also. Duty on previous auditor in case of change in auditorship. No duty cast on previous auditor, the duty is cast only on incoming auditor. But because of we have discussed our volume 1 revised code of ethics, that outgoing retired will convey the information regarding, he has some information related to that assignment, what he feels that this is necessary to convey the outgoing auditor to incoming auditor, so that should convey to incoming auditor about, specifically in case of suspected items and violation of law and regulations. So outgoing auditor will mention in communication to incoming auditor about that certain things related to entity. Also, we have add some related. I can say that that is, we have clearly mentioned that thing, that premises are logged. In that case, the communication received back by the incoming auditor with office found logged written on the AD shall be deemed as delivered. Will consider as a deliver. Form not found at given registered address. If communication sent by with remark no such office exists at this address and address is registered with institute deemed to be delivered, unless the retiring auditor proves that it was not really served and that he was not responsible for such non-service. But from our incoming auditor side, that is sufficient, that he has sent already, he has sent later. Then position in the revised code regarding clause 9 about the Companies Act provision. Whenever Companies Act provision, so we have already aligned that provisions. That is not more important, because already, because of change in Companies Act, we have made certain amendment and changes. Like we have only mentioned in previous code that director simpliciter, now added who is not a managing director, whole-time director, is required only in the board meeting of the companies and not paid any remuneration except for attending such meetings. So we have more elaborated this definition of ordinary and simplicity director. I can say that we have given more clarification regarding that. And HUF, if member in practice and he is also karta of any his HUF, so he cannot be actively, he cannot be as actively karta. And because of succession, inheritance, and partition of the family, he has become a karta, but he should not involve himself in day-to-day activity if he is also in practice. So commentary on confidentiality already I have covered in part A, and about the position in revised code regarding this is also not this is the related to conflict of interest, as I have already mentioned that things like in any position, if conflict of interest for any query, maximum 50% query what we are receiving nowadays related to conflict of interest. If you feel that there is a conflict of interest, so you can't perform that type of functions. For example, internal auditor not to be the tax auditor, like that. Cooling off period after completion of tenure as a director, this is also most important. If you any chartered accountant is a director in particular company, so not to be the auditor for the period of 2 years after the date of completion as a director. So generally generally accepted audit procedures, we have clearly mentioned that what guideline in our clause 9 related to requirement from practicing chartered accountant side, that peer review is necessary of listed companies as per Companies Act requirement. Then mandatory FRN membership number, UDIN requirement is also mandatory, even in present COVID situations. In case of online digital signature and online accounting and auditing standard we are following, so we'll have to, if before issuing report, so within 15 days UDIN requirement also will have to comply. Again, some advertisement guideline. This is very minor changes in our website guideline because of changes in changes in technology. We have incorporated certain things which are outdated because of that 10 and 12 year back. So we have here added some words and some changes. For example, web replaced with website. Only name was mentioned that time in point B. So we have one CA also add chartered accountant. And in case of website, passport size replaced with passport style. So many small changes are there. So we have just incorporated that changes. And certain about the advertisement guideline, that our write up where we are advertising, so should be like, shall be honest and truthful, not misleading, and not bring the professional into disrepute. So this type of certain advertisement guideline, there is no so many changes, but because only some changes situations of digital and technology world, we had made changes. So this is also related to write up. So I'm not going into the detail of advertisement guideline and write up relative. Already this is the consequential changes of like, for example, in case of tax audit, in case of companies audit, there is requirement of 30 audit as per our self-regulatory measures, but as per Companies Act 30, so there as per Companies Act 13, there is a requirement of 20. So but in case of small and OPC company, so we can do other additional 10 companies audit also. In total maximum limit is 30. And I have already mentioned about the 15% of fees requirement. Previously it was already in part B, that is 40% requirement. So this is related to just pages and item and clauses where our changes are there. So about the unjustified removal of auditor, already like for that particular purpose, online we are already started online documentation. Member can set if he feel that he is facing unjustified removal of audit for particular client. So in case he may send their complaint to ESB on online mode, and also the submission fees also through NEFT he can do. Now about the volume 3, that is related to, as I have mentioned, ki we have a separate digest for that. Like in income tax and GST, any act and regulation, that case laws separate digest are there. So we have also this year this separate digest, all case laws appearing here too under commentary, under Code of Ethics 2009, shifted to case law referencer. We have bifurcated as per any case laws related to that particular clauses schedule. So with that, we have mentioned and compiled all case laws related that particular situation, and we have published in the form of volume 3. And up to 2009 to 19 cases we have incorporated, and also cases segregated issue wise in the index, and also numbered all cases case laws in the number. And finally, I would like to certain queries related to ethical standard board, which we have received recently. So about that, a CA firm may register itself on Udyog Aadhaar, a web portal of Ministry Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. So CA can impanel and register that ministry. There is no prohibition for internal auditor of a company to acquire or purchase share of the said company. Then a chartered accountant in practice, being director solicitor in a company, cannot sign ROC form of the company, as it is a direct conflict of role. Then it is permissible for 2 or more chartered accountants in practice collectively to have joint training sessions for their clients on GST or budget or on income tax, and share the fees collected from the client thereof. Means up to restricted to your clients only. Okay. Next, a chartered accountant in practice can provide services through kiosk only if the services provided are professional activity. In so many state government, they are providing, they are appointing kiosk center for filing certain documents, certain due diligence, certain other things as in the nature of professional activity. So our member can provide this type of service also, but subject to this type of services are our related to our professional activity only. So institute is permitting for that kiosk center, and a chartered accountant can hold the credit card of a bank when he is also the auditor of bank. Credit card, he can hold that credit card. Present limit is 10,000. From 1st July it will be 1 lakh rupees. And in case of chartered accountant in practice is not permitted to accept audit assignment of a bank in case he has taken loan against a fixed deposit. Specifically, I have mentioned here fixed deposit because so many members are doing this audit, and he has also loan against FDs. And the member and firm can conduct training through seminars on GST, but only invite its existing clients to such training programs. Some queries are related to GST practice after introduction of GST. Now he can send presentation on GST, write up on GST only to existing client and to a proposed client if any inquiry was received from the proposed client. Randomly he cannot send outer world their related to their firm detail and any GST about informations to outer world. But in case of any inquiries there, so they can firm can respond, and they cannot mention GST consultant in visiting card and office stationery and document. Even not GST consultant, even IT consultant, income tax law consultants cannot mention. And only we are aware about that. Only we can mention degrees and registered valuers or these type of restricted things. Only we can mention. We cannot disclose our expertise on our stationaries and cards. And a member can share GST update mentioning himself as a CA with individual name, provided the communication is limited to provide update. Mention of firm name is not allowed. And in case of GST training can be provided to the existing client. In case of non-clients, training can be provided only if the member is invited to provide such training. For example, some trade association maybe invite you as a speaker, so you can go to and you can address in that forum. Very important judgment related to, as I have previously also mentioned about the coaching. Member in practice engaged in coaching teaching activity are advised to abstain from advertising their association with coaching teaching activity through hoardings, posters, banners, and by any other means following which they may be liable for disciplinary actions as per the provision of CA Act 49 and rules and regulations framed thereunder. It is not permissible for member to use WhatsApp to send message to make people aware about his practice, his profile, and mentioning what type of service he is providing or firm is providing. So this type of also WhatsApp not permissible. And recent important ESB decision, because in this situation and also so many violations are also there about content auditor undertake the quarterly review audit also. So content auditor and the assignment of quarterly review of the same bank cannot be undertaken simultaneously, as the content auditor being a kind of internal audit and the quarterly review being a kind of statutory audit undertaken simultaneously are prohibited under the provision of guidance note on independence of auditor. Here I would like to update one thing about the bank related some documentation, review, audit, certification. So many private bank asking a certain type of certification, please take certificate from your chartered accountant. So first you should ask to that bank, please provide us in which your circular, RBI notification, where is this requirement, where they are asking for take certificate from chartered accountant. And after that, after evaluating that particular provision and circular, you can provide or you can issue certificate with our guideline and guidance not related to issuing certificate. So after that, compiling all provisions, you may issue certificate, but subject to, please check all provisions, all requirements, act, regulation, circular, and after you can issue that type of certificates. So these are some issues what I have mentioned. And I can also mention related to bank audits some questions. If just after completing this my PPT, Kal ki aur, that is called, because there is all Tamil language people. Kal ki aur, it means towards tomorrow. After incorporation of artificial intelligence, as we have discussed about 5 fundamental principles, now if you are using AI, blockchain, and data analytics, and you are performing a computerized environment audit, so you will have to other certain ethical principles are also there, that definitely in future this will be our ethical principle, will incorporate these principles also: fairness, transparency, accessibility, privacy, security, accountability. So we will have to more concern about this type of ethical framework also, but in future, and I'm seeing that in near future I can say that. And here I'm also sharing one link of professional opportunity related, that our PDC committee has published Quick Insight book. This is really very informative, and compilation of all type of professional opportunity are there. And not only professional opportunity, how you can impanel yourself, and also update about technical things also, कि how you can take training that particular segment if you are interested to doing this type of. So this publication is very important, and I would say to chairperson कि you can circulate this soft copy also. And for example, all type of nature of audit, government scheme, various tender links are also there related to PSUs, public sector bank, private sector bank, even global, about global profession opportunity, even in case of digital platform opportunity, and so many government ministry also. So all we have compiled in this quick referencer, so you can share, and links are also there. And this is some important publications, this, because if you are in practice and you are chartered accountant, so in your office, in your desktop, these all publications are very relevant. And if chairperson has this publication, that is okay, otherwise I will share all these important publications to chairperson, and she will circulate to you. And dear members, thank you very much for your patience listening. And one more updation I would like to share with you all, that we have our digital learning hub, and about structured CPE hour. So up to 30th June, you can use that eCPE from our digital learning hub. We have designed 40-hour structured CPE program. So member can attend and take benefit of structured 10 CPE hours also. And dear chairperson, we have also received some queries and FAQs related to bank assignment. If you will say, so I can cover 12 or 13 queries I have received in so many conferences, and because of bank audit season. If you will say, so I will take up that query. Otherwise, this forum is open for your queries.
Ma'am, you can go ahead with your queries. We have some 4 to 5 queries there. Yeah.
Okay. So this is okay. So I am taking, because this is very important FAQs. So firstly, I will cover only 10 or 12. Question 1 is whether a firm of chartered accountant can accept audit of a branch of a bank while one of the partner of the said bank have taken loan from different branch of bank. So in that case, no, the firm of chartered accountant cannot accept audit of the bank. Even his partner has taken loan from other branch also. In that case, not permissible. Whether a member can accept appointment as statutory auditor of certain branches of a bank while he is the revenue auditor of different branches of the same bank, no, a member is not permitted. Third is whether a member can do content audit and quarterly review. I have already covered. Question answer is no. Whether it is permissible to accept content audit of a bank branch by statutory auditor of three different branches of the same bank, not permitted, because of in this time so many bank merge in other banks. In that case, so many our chartered accountants are concurrent auditor in that bank, and that bank is merged in a different bank in that case, and now they have received appointment letter from that bank. But in any case, only one type of assignment can handled by our chartered accountant, either concurrent audit or statutory audit. Next question is whether the internal auditor of an entity or bank can undertake consultancy work of the same bank. There is no restriction for the consultancy work because that is different assignment. There is no conflict of interest and matter of independence, so they can handle that type of assignment. Whether the statutory audit of a bank can undertake concurrent audit of its sponsorer banks. No, the statutory audit of a bank cannot be the content audit of its sponsor's bank. Whether the statutory audit of a bank can accept stock audit of the same branch or different branch of the same bank. The stock audit and statutory audit are not permissible to be done simultaneously. Whether the concurrent auditor of a bank can accept tax audit of a same bank. No, the concurrent auditor of a bank cannot accept the tax audit assignment. Whether the concurrent audit of a bank can accept limited review of the same bank. No, again no. The concurrent auditor of a bank cannot accept limited review of the same bank. Whether a member can simultaneously be certified information system auditor, CISA, or credit appraiser of the same bank. Yes, member can be. And whether the auditor of a bank can hold credit card of a same bank, as I have mentioned, no prohibition, but up to 10,000 and from 1st July 1 lakh. Whether the content auditor of a bank can accept the assignment of its statutory auditor after relinquishing the assignment of the content auditor of the bank. Yes, I have mentioned anytime only one assignment he or she may be handled. Whether the statutory auditor of a bank can accept assignments like internal audit, system audit, management, consultancy services, the answer is no. Now over to, first I would like to thank chairperson for inviting me and for giving me this opportunity to interact the members of Madurai branch. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Forward
madam.
to chairperson.
We have some 4 to 5 queries. I think
Yeah,
I shall
please.
mail to the, or shall I go ahead now?
You can mail also, and we will give that answer. No issue. I am okay with all.
Okay, then we shall go ahead, ma'am. I'll.
Ha.
One second. Is it visible? Shall I read it, ma'am, or is it possible for you to see?
Yeah. No. If you will read, that will be better. Otherwise,
Okay.
1 minute.
As an individual CA firm, there are many CAs in India, close to 1,000, who are members in networking organization like BNI, Rotary, Lions, etc. Is this allowed? That is the question.
Not allowed, no?
Okay, ma'am. Shall go to the next question.
Yeah. Only registered with ICI network, they can be the part of only registered network with ICI.
Okay. Is any prior permission required from ICAI for acting as an additional or independent director of a company?
No. If you are as a director simply setter, there is no any permission required.
And regarding cooling off or rotation, where it is not compulsory under Companies Act 2013, does the code ethics compel?
Yeah, in case of is any provisions related to Companies Act, we'll have to follow in that manner. But otherwise, in case of other assignment, there is no specific that requirement. Depend on Act and regulations.
Okay. And
yeah,
please elaborate on prohibition to render taxation services to audit clients.
Yeah, I think I have detailed mention in my PPT about that. If there is any threats related to two threats are there. One is self-review threats and one is advocacy threat. And if you are able to eliminate that type of threats, so you can do both function, depend on materiality, conflict of interest, and elimination of threats. I have already mentioned in my PPT also that thing.
Okay. Can we do statutory audit of where my spouse is working? That is the question.
No, because so many disciplinary cases are already there in position. If in what position she is working, she is employee of that particular segment. So because of conflict of interest, and here is also familiarity threat is there.
The last question, ma'am. Can you please explain the specific provisions regarding conduct of coaching by practicing CAs? And one more question. Maximum hours that can be devoted to coaching.
25 hours in a week for practicing chartered accountant. Only these provisions is there regarding that, because otherwise permissible. And 25 hours in a week. Okay. And regarding that, only prohibition now in this revised code of ethics regarding that ki hoarding, boarding, and somewhere in panel and that type of that not permissible. Only that coaching institute they can mention that CAXYZ is a faculty.
Faculty. And can a CA involved in private coaching also involved in coaching classes by the institute or visiting faculty of any colleges or a school?
In case of what is present regulations as per Board of Studies, because now Board of Studies is handling by Debashish Mitra ji, so we can ask to if there is any change. But as last I was BOS chairperson, so if you are owner of any coaching institute, in that case was not allowed. But if you are a faculty of that any institute, so you can take class of ICI BOS classes also. There is no any restriction about that. Ki you are taking classes of XYZ coaching institute, ABC coaching institute. In that case, you can also take class of our ICI Board of Studies e-Pathshala classes also.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your very clarification. Yes.
Okay, just I would also like to convey my message. In the view of COVID-19 pandemic, we wish you and your family to be safe and happy and stay home.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Now I request CA Mohanasundram sir, Secretary, to propose vote of thanks.
Respected Chairperson, CA Abhinay Sri, respected guest of honor, SARC Chairman, DC Jain, respected Speaker, Central Council Member, CA Kamisha Soni, Chairperson, Ethical Standards Board of ICA, respected members who view this program, greetings to all. On behalf of Management Committee of MBSARC, we thank the Speaker who accept our invitation and deliver a wonderful informative presentation in New Code of Ethics 2020 class by class. Madam, we are delighted by the meticulous lucid explanation by you. It is very useful to our members, madam. Thanks once again, madam.
Thank you. Thank you.
We request all the members of Madurai to contribute generously to COVID-19 Relief Fund of ICAI. We also thank all the members who view this program. Thank you all, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.